Namaste, Joy Makamakya. I'm appearing in a video after quite some days as I was busy with travels and some own sadhanas, my own. So, as many people might be aware, on Ashtami Tithis of Krishna Paksha, there is a specific sadhana that I had initiated some months ago as more or less a Vishesh Upasana of Bhairava with a larger aim of protection of Dharma and destruction of adharma. So, this is not a personal thing, this is more for the universal good of people who follow Dharma. Over time, initially when we had started this, we would hardly be able to get about, say, so it was multiple people doing the sadhana on that day, and we were able to get about 1 lakh of japa a few months ago. But last Krishna Paksha Ashtami, the count of japa actually touched, with participation from many other people, it touched almost 10 lakhs on one day, on one tithi. Along with it, there was of course Annadanam and plus various pujas that were done in different temples. So this is actually a very good number, being able to do 10 lakh japa of Bhairava Mantra, simple Bhairava Mantra with some simple procedures on the Ashtami Tithi, with Sankalpa which is vast and which is not restricted to the benefit of a specific individual. I think it's a very, very good step to do. And as months and years go by, I expect that this number will keep increasing, and as collectively more and more people do Upasana of Bhairava, his blessings, his energy will become more active on the physical plane, on the world we live in, and it will help to counter all negative forces who are inimical to, who are opposed to Sanatana Dharma. So Bhairava is a kshetrapala first and foremost. At the highest level, he becomes the ultimate Ishvara, the Para Bhairava, the one who brings about the greatest realization of Advaita. Not the Vedantic Advaita, but it is more the Advaitam that comes along with Bhairava Upasana. Eventually, it comes to a state. But at the first level, he is a kshetrapala. Kshetra here can mean anything from the human body to a specific temple, or the pitha, or the sacred geography connected to a temple. So he is the protector of those spaces. If we think a little in a little bit more expanded format, you will see that even almost the whole of India is like a kshetra in one sense. So Bhairava is also the protector of this land from all forces which choose to decide to harm dharma and the dharmic practices that are followed in this land for centuries. So in all these senses taken together, Bhairava Upasana at a mass scale, not for any personal benefit but for the sake of dharma, is a extremely powerful practice to do, and and done over time, it is going to cause a definite result on the physical plane, causing some greater amount of positive development with regards to dharma. In context of this, there were a few questions that were sent to me by some people. First and foremost is that, is it okay for is it all right to introduce Bhairava Upasana in mass? To which my answer is that, well, I have introduced a lot of people to Bhairava Upasana over years, and more or less I would say that 80-85% I've seen very positive benefits out of it. So that is a extremely high number, statistically speaking. And that little bit of risk that is there in the 10%, that amount of risk is there in every mantra you do, anything, any practice you do. Not just practice, I mean, there is always a risk in everything in life. Even crossing a road has a risk of its own, right? So given that if a process gives you 80-85% of success, that is more or less to be taken as a very good method to do, very good practice to do. Secondly, the mantra sadhana that I recommend and the basic sadhana that I recommend people to do is actually quite simple. There are no complicated bijas, there's no complicated mantras, no complicated procedures involved in it. It is actually extremely simple, extremely doable, and given that the aim is very broad, it is not personal, which means that it is done for the sake of dharma. So therefore, even if there are a few small errors in the process by an individual, it will not it is least likely to produce any negative repercussion on them. So you should not be worried on that score. If an individual already is undergoing some problems, if there is a graha bada that is there, or if there is some other issue that is going on, or if there is a health issue that is there, etc., then that is an entirely different matter. This mantra is neither going to make it bad nor going to help with you with that, because in any case the sankalpa is not an individual's own gain, it is something larger. So I would recommend, if somebody were to start doing this japa with that kind of an aim that it will solve their own personal problems, then it may or may not happen, because that is an entirely different type of analysis. But if you do it with the aim that this will help dharma, and if dharma gets strengthened and helped, it helps the individual, it helps the future generations of the individual, and a lot of blessings come to the individual if that kind of upasana is done, then the risk is almost minimal. Another thing that has so in this context, the coming Amavasya Tithi is also extremely important, not for Bhairava but for Maa Tara. On this Amavasya Tithi, there is a huge gathering of people that happens at the Tarapith temple in Bengal, which is the foremost Tara temple in the whole world, and which is where Bhamakhepa had done his Upasana. So the deity is cremation ground deity completely. Smashan Tara, Ugra Tara. There's a cremation ground in Tarapith. These days, of course, everything has become extremely crowded, being a temple town. But perhaps if we go back and read the descriptions of the place and the sadhanas that used to be done even a few decades ago, so it is still an extremely potent, extremely powerful place, a kshetra for sadhana, for upasakas, genuine upasakas. So on this Amavasya as well, if somebody is interested, they can do a simple sadhana of Maa Tara. No mantras are involved in this. So basically, sit down, do your achman, then light a diya of ghee and one of oil. If you do not have two diyas, then just one diya, and start doing the Ashtottara Nama of Goddess Tara, 108 names, and do it at least 9 times. 9 is a minimum count. If you want to do more, if there are people who have been practicing for some time and they want to do more, that's always welcome. And this whole thing is to be done again with a very basic generic sankalpa, not for any personal benefit, but more for the strengthening of dharma. This is a larger cause, a broader cause. Pray to the goddess, if you're doing the sadhana, that may her blessings be with us, and may her blessings help to stop all that is negative, all that is inimical and dangerous and detrimental to Sanatana Dharma. It is important, therefore, and we live in times where it is important, therefore, to do these kind of sadhanas, not just by one individual, but by masses of people. The more the number, the better it is. With this kind of a broad aim that helps to revive, not just revive, but strengthen dharma at every level. From a spiritual point of view, this brings about the energy of the gods into the planes that we live in, and as their energy becomes more prominent, as their presence becomes more prominent in our lives, it helps to fight against all kinds of enemies that have the worst interest of Sanatana Dharma in their hearts. So that is why these sadhanas are important, and that is why I keep insisting that people do these Vishesh Upasanas, whether it is for Bhairava or for Maa Tara. Now, Goddess Maa Tara is one of the most powerful Mahavidya goddesses that we have among the Dasa Mahavidyas. Her mantra sadhana definitely requires an initiation, and not just an initiation, but after initiation you can anyway keep doing your mantra japa. But if somebody is seriously keen on pushing the accelerator into a deeper Tara Upasana, engagement with Tara Upasana, and one decides to do Purushcharana and larger counts of the Tara mantra, then it is important to be very steady, because of all the deities in the Mahavidya Pantheon, the one most strongly connected to the cremation grounds is Tara. Even more than Ma Kali, because Kali has various forms. There are forms of Kali that you can worship at home, and then there are cremation ground forms, etc. But for Ma Tara, primarily her presence is of Smashan Tara and Ugra Tara. So these forms, when intense japa, intense sadhana of these forms are done, it is important for an upasaka, even if he may have all the dikshas, to remain completely steady. The Bhairava of Tara is known as Akshobhya. Akshobhya means unshakable. So it is not just a name of a deity, but it is also, in a sense, an indication of the kind of tattva, the kind of attitude that must be there in an upasaka if you have to go deeper into Tara sadhana. So, to clarify one more point, there are a lot of people, especially in Bengal, who have great devotion to Maa Tara, and they may have photos of the goddess and their own way they interact with the goddess, and they get blessings. All that is perfectly all right, and that's perfectly valid. Anybody can go and visit temples, there's no harm in it. But the moment you have to do sadhana of the deity, and the reason for sadhana is to attain to a state of communion with the devata, which is what Siddhi finally is. The ultimate Siddhi is actually this, not specifically any miraculous powers, but that state of complete, that oneness with the deity. If that is what the aim is, then one has to do sadhana. And if you're doing sadhana, then everything changes. Then it is not so easy. It's not just about having an emotional connect to the deity and saying, saying Maa Tara 100 times is going to cause you is going to bring about the the blessings of the final result of the communion any faster. One has to go through the process, and that process will test an upasaka to the core. Make no mistake about it. Whenever Tara Upasana properly, with the right mantras and the right guidance and the right method intensely done, it requires the upasaka to become very steady, first and foremost. No doubt about it that Maa Tara is one of the fastest among the goddesses, and her blessings when it comes to an individual is extremely powerful, protects him or her from all troubles, destroys his enemies, brings about protection not only from actual enemies but also from things like where there are financial crises, there's some other problem, etc., etc. Her help is paramount and very swift, provided the upasaka has been able to build a connection with her. That is very important. So, I would not recommend anybody to do the mantra sadhana, but definitely you can do the Ashtottara Nama. Even some Puritans may say that even the Ashtottara Nama is not to be done, but I believe that it is alright to do it, and I have, again, under various circumstances, when I felt that somebody would do well for Tara Upasana, I have introduced this Ashtottara Nama to people over months, and they have more or less produced some positive benefits into their lives through this. So anybody who's interested, this Amavasya Tithi is extremely important, specifically for Maa Tara, and I think it's on the 14th, this coming Thursday in India. So if you want, you might try doing a simple upasana of Maa Tara, as I mentioned. So sit down with if possible, wear a red dress. If not, anything is fine. Sit down in your asan, do the achman, normal achman. Do not do any tantric achman or anything. If you have tantric diksha, then do, otherwise do a normal achman. And then light 2 diyas and chant the Ashtottara Nama of Bhagavati Tara at least 9 times. If you do more, even better. And before you do, just mentally pray that this is for the protection of Dharma, this is for strengthening of Dharma and weakening of the forces that are against Sanatana Dharma. With this kind of a prayer, a mental attitude, go ahead and do this sadhana 9 times or more than 9, up to you. And then meditate on just the name of Goddess Tara, just the name. So, Tara is also extremely powerful, almost kind of a very root foundational devata in Buddhism, in Tantric Buddhism. Though I do not have a complete knowledge of or full knowledge of how she is there in what kind of sadhanas are done in Buddhism, but this much I know that there are multiple variations of Tara. They have almost 21 perhaps. But in the Hindu Pantheon, Tara is a Mahavidya goddess, and she is worshipped primarily as Ugra Tara or Smashan Tara. Though there is also the Neela Saraswati aspect and the Ekajata aspect of her, but it is the Ugra Tara form that receives maximum upasana, primarily centered around the temple of Tarapith that we have. There are 1-2 other Tara temples also in India, other places in north. It is also believed that till even a few centuries ago, Tara Upasanas in south of India was almost non-existent. Perhaps it was a disciple of Ramana Maharishi, or the wife of a disciple of Ramana Maharishi, who was first initiated into Tara Upasana by a Bhairavi guru from Bihar. So that said, Goddess Tara is an absolutely beautiful, powerful, fantastic and blissful deity. If somebody attains her blessing, a little bit of kripa, lot of difficulties are removed from life, many blessings come to an individual, there is a guidance and a clarity that will come. However, remember that she is also an extremely powerful goddess, and she is not just powerful, but let's say that her presence requires, when intense upasana, mantra upasana of Maa Tara is done, it requires that the upasaka should have complete steadiness, like the tattva of Akshobhya Bhairava should be there. Then he or she will be able to transcend the various initial chaotic conditions that can come and hit an upasaka. And unless he's steady, he'll get unnerved by it. But that is precisely the point. One has to be very steady and carry on the sadhana, because after that, when a connection is actually built with the deity, it is absolutely terrific experience. It's an experience that one carries till the last day of his life, and perhaps carries forward to his next life also. So with that, I'll end the video. I hope at least some of you will be doing the Tara Upasana this coming Amavasya Tithi in the manner I mentioned, with the aim I mentioned. And I hope the blessings of Maa Tara is on everybody, and the blessings of Maa Tara helps to fight against all forces that are inimical to, that are malefic, that are against Sanatana Dharma. Jai Maa Tara, Jai Maa Kamakya.